But then again, he embarrassed himself so completely and fully that he's literally no longer on the internet. So.
Indian pro Israel accounts catching strays in China in a China versus Japan video. Why my countrymen? Why, dude? I mean, this is.
That is. I mean,
I'm sorry if you listen. Anybody that comes up with something like this,
listen. It's called a world system. Okay, read some Emmanuel Wallerstein. Okay,
dude,
grow up.
This
okay.
All right, let's watch this Gattsu video when Noah comes back. Noah, I'm about to introduce you to Gen Z politics. And then we'll do, should have been me, should have been Emily, should have been love. FYI, people are referring to you as some dude in a maid outlet and cat ears on the timeline. I know, I saw that. It's pretty funny.
Some dude in a maid.
That is pretty funny. Like, I forget that the average person has no fucking idea who I am. Or what I do, and that's awesome. I don't have an issue with that. It's better that they not know who I am and encounter me as a dude in a maid outfit than to be like, this is the worst guy on the planet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Zoomer politics time.
Japan are the dominant Asian powers, and they have been beefing for centuries at this point. But for the past couple of centuries, China was at a disadvantage because Britain made them addicted to opium and basically destroyed them along with other European powers during the Chinese century of humiliation. And Japan got the sun dropped on them twice. Both of them have gotten cooked, but Japan has gone from producing the world's most brutal soldiers to making Nintendo and Naruto. That's a very, very good glow up. And China went from a rural, broke dictatorship to being ruled by the man with the most aura since Stalin and becoming the factory of the world.
Dude, Gen Z is hot on China, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was talking about this with some friends recently, where it's like, I think a lot more people are gonna start coming to our understanding of the world, especially younger generations that haven't been like taught to fucking hate China and love TikTok. And on TikTok, you do get some like decently pro-China messaging. Like, why? Like, if you're Gen Z and your life is dog shit, okay, and you're never gonna fucking retire, everything sucks, the future looks bleak, and the same people that you despise that have ruined your fucking lives, okay, that have ruined your future, that robbed you of your future, okay, are telling you you gotta hate these Chinese motherfuckers out there, okay? Meanwhile, you're on TikTok, you're seeing them eat delicious food and take advantage of public transit. Yeah, there's like cool trains in Chongqing that go through buildings and shit. Why you're like, why would I hate these guys? They're just chilling.
And also, like, it seems like their way of life is not like coming apart at the seams.
Yeah,
like that's where it's like, it's not that everything in China is like perfect. It's not that everybody there's happy all the time. It's that, like, on a relative basis, like, where would you rather spend like the next 100 years given the current trajectory?
Yeah, there's no like fully fleshed out and carefully manufactured hatred for China and the Chinese, I think, among the younger generations.
The craziest looking, most cyberpunk cities in the world. And to signify the point system and which one is winning, each country's leader will progressively get more of a Chad face as they gain points. Both of these countries love overworking their people, such as the infamous 996 in China, where you have to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. Now, that is just the average work schedule in Eastern Europe, but it might be shocking to a lot of people. What else do you do all day? You barely have time for sleep. Exactly. Good. There won't be any time for you to start getting first world thoughts such as sadness or whatever Sigmund was talking about. And honestly, in this category, both of these countries are tied because Japanese people are notoriously overworked. Karoshi is a Japanese word meaning death.
I think one of the funniest parts about this is that, like, we always assume that Americans are just like fat slobs and lazy pieces of shit that all own jet ski dealerships and eat burger. But the American population is also notoriously overworked.
It's true. And even if it's like Americans, even if like they're not like in an absolute way like overworked compared to, I don't know, China or Japan or Europe or parts of Europe, Americans like exist in a society and like have a way of life where like the psychological affliction of being overworked and being I mean, like, call it the Protestant ethic, whatever you want to, like, it like kills Americans to not be working, to not be allowed to work, to not be able to participate in society through work.
Yeah. Not Karoshi level though. Well, the problem with Karoshi is that or not the problem with Karoshi necessarily, but Japanese work culture is devious because all of your social, like all the social shit that you have to do also is a part of your work. You have to go to drinks, you have to go get drinks with your coworkers after work. And then that also factors into you not having enough healthy personal time. Yeah, and you know, there's not really a lot of opportunities, no quitting, no nothing. Same with Korea too. Yeah, like Korean culture is also pretty bad too.
From overwork, and seeing tired, passed out businessmen in Japan is pretty common. Obviously, this work schedule is not healthy, and seeing as both these countries have a horrible birth rate and a demography crisis coming up, they need to lock in and do something about this. In China, they actually banned the 996 work system, so it's not technically illegal to do that, but China has a big unemployment problem among the youth to the point where a fifth of them are extremely qualified but unemployed. So a lot of these people will accept bad working conditions such as the 996 to have a salary and actually make money. So yeah, it's illegal, but like stabbing is illegal, but people still do it, you know? The standard work week is 40 hours in Japan, but a recent government survey found that 1 in 10 Japanese workers put in more than 80 hours of overtime alone per month, with
Christ.
1 in 5 at risk of karoshi. And there's also this bullshit of pretending to like your boss and having to hang out with them and go to drinks with them. Man, I remember when I was in that call center. That boss, man, I hated his ass. If I had to hang out with them, I would be wearing an ankle monitor right now. So genuinely saying which one has a worse work culture is a hard battle to decide. So instead of a chat face, they both get eye bags under their eyes now from overwork.
No,
but
not
both these
Xi Jinping.
countries shine in technology. They're both extremely dominant in this field and extremely useful to the entire planet. First of all, China makes everything in the world. Like, if you look around your house, probably like 50 to 70% of what you see was fully made in China. And China has gotten a lot better at general technology because of their massive government subsidies, making good cars, innovating on phones, electric car batteries, solar panels, nuclear energy, basically everything. And Japan, I'm worried about Japan's economy, you know, because all the wars in the Middle East have stopped.
Whoa,
so
Swan
their
Marcus,
Toyota
damn, that guy he fell off.
Japan's economy, you know,
Is it because
all
they kept outing him as they kept unmasking him?
No, it's because
wasn't he like a sex pest who like moved to Thailand?
He's a slug. But and I won't get into specifics on that, but I will say he basically was like a ride or die for Kamala so hard and was like so hostile and condescending to Trump people about it, like on the election level, that like after the election he disappeared.
He hated me.
He hated me too.
Yeah, he would.
He's a common anti for both of us.
He would routinely yell about my analysis, which turned out to be right, and he turned out to be
he
very
used to try
wrong.
and reply guy to me, and then eventually I got like I made him mad enough, and he made me mad enough that I just stopped engaging. But then again, he embarrassed himself so completely and fully that he's literally no longer on the internet. So.
Indian pro-Israel accounts catching strays in China in a China versus Japan video. Why my countrymen? Why, dude? I mean, this is.
That is. I mean,
I'm sorry if you listen. Anybody that comes up with something like this,
listen. It's called a world system. Okay, read some Emmanuel Wallerstein. Okay,
dude,
grow up. Okay. It's all connected.
This
all right.
This is an amazing. This is a amazing, indecipherable world. This is Sneeko's worldview. This is like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like,
the wars in the Middle East have stopped. So their Toyota pickup sales must be down now. Somebody start another conflict in the Middle East. Need to lock in. Japan needs to sell pickups. But really, Japan is amazing at technology. PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Sony TVs, Canon and Nikon cameras, and basically everyone has these for photography. Toyota, Honda, Seiko, and Casio watches. Also, Japan has been notorious for their amazing train system. But sadly, they got mugged. And not only does China alone
True.
have 2/3 of the world's high-speed rail network, but they also made faster trains than Japan recently. Japan does lead in robotics and precision manufacturing, but China leads in like everything else, man. Like AI, 6G, electric cars, solar panels, and they're literally the only reason why solar panels are cheap now. And
Also, they're doing this while under like severe competition restrictions from the United States of America. This is also something to remember as well. Like, we just straight up intercepted a deal that they were supposed to have with the Netherlands for you know, the what is it called? The microchips, semiconductor technology. We were like, nope, you can't do that.
I mean, the EU just like I know that they rolled back. It was more of it's like one of those like it's like a law that was more of a formality than something that actually like mattered or had punishments or consequences. But the idea was that like the EU is trying now to like open up like business wise and develop more joint ventures with China.
Yeah.
And I'm kind
ASML lithography machines.
I'm kind of curious to see, like, there was an article, I think it was in the South China Morning Post about all this, but I am
my favorite newspaper for all things China, including like what's happening with the pandas.
I mean, I'm curious to see, like, as the US decides that we're no longer doing science because science research
Is
and
gay.
capital investment is gay and DEI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's.
I'm so glad that we're cutting grants.
It's wonderful. It's awesome.
Yeah.
There was a push notification since I started streaming with you from the New York Times that was like, critics are concerned that Trump's cuts to the National Weather Service may make it difficult to produce weather forecasts.
Yeah.
Who the f- needs weather forecasts,
Yeah.
right?
Virtually everyone. The answer is obviously air traffic control, agriculture, basically commerce in its entirety could come to a grinding halt if we can't accurately predict weather patterns due to the NOAA and NWS funding cuts. But hey, weather is also gay because they keep saying, those fucking gay ass scientists keep saying climate change is real, and Trump doesn't like that. So he's going to punish them. Okay? Good stuff.
So if everything made in China suddenly disappeared, most of the shit in your house would disappear. And it would look like the True Detective house without the mattress. So while Japan put up a very good fight with amazing technologies, China does win this one. But who needs mass scale technology when you got the vibes, man? Japan is notorious for having the best vibes ever. And just
I'm going to be honest, I think this is also going to change. Like, I keep saying to everyone that will listen that going to China right now, you know, before the inevitable happens, hopefully it never happens. But going to China right now is like going to Japan in the 80s and 90s. Like it is the Japan of the 80s. It's just at the top currently.
general aesthetic stuff. That's why
Someone said wrong. Philippines on top. True. Pinoy gang.
there are weeaboos and not China-boos. China would have a very good chance at scoring points here, but Mao decided, I'm destroying the culture and I'm killing pigeons. Fuck you. Japan just looks like the best place ever, man. I'm actually gonna apply for a visa to go there. It looks amazing. And I haven't even
you
watched
can't really
anime
do a
in a
Japan
while.
Blaze
Okay, like
video and not
Tokyo is
have
the coolest
Akira in
city
it.
ever. We all know this, but there are so many other gems in Japan as well, such as Okinawa. And this is literally just a tropical island. And just so many absolutely gorgeous little towns that has everyone soy facing. China is also beautiful, but the real deciding factor is, would you rather travel to a Chinese village or a Japanese village? See, the Phoenix Ancient City in China is a cool place. It's basically like the Kung Fu Panda as a town, and it looks very nice, but come on, man, Japan, bro. Also, if we're counting Hong Kong, because they're not
We
mainland
are.
China, Hong Kong is fucking amazing. It's beautiful, amazing public transport too, and someone told me that
Let me tell you where you're not getting a visa from, Georgian man. Okay? The People's Republic. That's right. Okay? What is this fucking Hong
Tokyo.
Kong is amazing, but it's not a part of China attitude coming from you? If it?
Yeah, it's on the table.
It's on the table.
The
is
kitchen
even
table.
better than Hong Kong. I don't know if this is possible. Japanese embassy in Tbilisi, get in contact with me and give me a visa so I can see if it's truly better than Hong Kong. The only way Japan kind of fucks up its vibes is just some perv shit, right?
You own cats, right? Yes.
And there are cats here too.
But they're not cats, they're teenage girls.
Wow.
So it's a bit of Diddy mode, but I guarantee Diddy wouldn't have gotten all this controversy if he had sakura trees in his backyard instead of beds on the basketball court. But Japanese culture is absolutely amazing, especially after they stopped being fascists. That's when they really became cool. I don't know why they still use that flag on their
Damn, this
navy.
is
Me
Zoomer's fuck.
personally, I would strive to change it, but hey, I didn't make JoJo or Death Stranding or Berserk, so don't take my word for it. However, no amount of vibes and aesthetic pink trees can cheer you up if your economy is ass. All three of these countries are gorgeous, but then you look at their economies and understand
World's angriest country.
ass. All three of
Hey, yo. Chill, bro. Chill. Chill. Okay. Fucking chill. Oh, my God. Oh, my people, we're never gonna get better, dude. Oh, this is not a good way to get mentioned. Also, how the fuck is Argentina not on this? I don't
Well, because
understand.
Mila hadn't taken over yet. The
No,
chainsaw
but
hadn't
they
ripped.
also had hyperinflation before him too. It's not like their
Yeah,
economy
they're
was
used to it. It's their culture.
You know what? Honestly, maybe.
They've had so
these
many
countries
government
are gorgeous,
collapses
but
over the year. No, they're like instability for them is I mean, they're angry, but it's their whole thing.
and you look
They're-
at their
yeah, they're
economies
chill.
and understand why they're so angry. Lebanon having a black market currency rate, Turkey having their official currency rate, which is somehow worse, and Armenia having these real estate prices. I'd be mad too. It's a reasonable crash out. And China has been growing a lot economically, and generally people have been enjoying a higher quality of life. It is also probably gonna become the biggest economy on the planet, but they have 1.4 billion people, which means their GDP per capita is less than $13,000, which means it's lower than Mexico, Kazakhstan, Chile, and Bulgaria. Because
Yeah, I mean, this should be a fairly decent indicator that like maybe that metric is not
Yeah, it's
the
not
best way to understand quality of life.
Well, because like GDP per capita means that like somebody in Mississippi enjoys like a higher quality of life than somebody in Hamburg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are other things to look at here, but
Also-
it's also not. It's not like I
also
will say it's not
GDP
totally wrong. There are a lot of like
Yeah.
China still has a peasantry. That's not something that
Yeah,
the U.S.
yeah.
has.
But also on top of that, like the American GDP is as vast as it is, not a manufacturing hub or whatever, but because we are an economy that revolves around finance capital and just like inventing new fake middlemen that shouldn't fucking exist for services that otherwise should be handled by the goddamn federal government. That plays a pretty formative role in our GDP, I think. Mississippi has peasantry too.
as people living in the big cities make 5 to 10 times as much money as people living in the rural areas. Of course, most places have this income gap, but usually
What is this? This is probably not actually true, by the way, because IMF is systematically undercounted services in China because MLs don't value services like we do. I can get into this more if you're interested. It's likely that the Chinese economy will be valued 50% more if China values services the same way that we do.
I'm open to the idea that like we're not measuring China totally correctly or by a set of standards that don't capture it. I think 50% more value.
that seems-
so that's a little.
That seems like a little bit too much of copium coming from
Also, like,
Central
it's, again,
underscore
it's not,
community.
It doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily mean that it's awesome that a country is like wealthy or rich, because like that also means is we are now currently experiencing in America that we have got a long way to fall, and that like you know what I mean. Like there's to me there's just
Do you think that like an Appalachian guy, they use more concrete in the last 3 years than America did in the last century? God damn.
it's true.
That is pretty crazy. It's because they're building fake cities. It's because they're building fake cities for no
Yeah, it's
reason.
for all those apartment buildings that nobody's ever gonna live in.
Yeah, please
until-
don't check in 10 years later. Don't do that.
don't do that.
Don't. Well, but 10 years later, they'll fucking point the finger at
Also,
another
like,
new city being built. Like
and
the
by
one.
the way, like we have had, I know that it seems like alien in this particular moment, but like in the 1980s, like you had like apartment blocks in like Texas and like Sunbelt cities that were like teetering into dust because there was nobody buying them. Like
Yeah.
it's not like it's a problem that we've never had in any event.
usually not as much as China, such as Japan, which does also have an income gap between big cities and rural areas, but nowhere near as much. And people in Japan generally enjoy a much higher quality of life with nearly triple the GDP per capita. But the thing is, Japan's economy has been stagnant since 1991. So stagnant, in fact, that it's referred to as Japan's lost decades. For example, in 1993, Japan's economy was 4.5 trillion, and this year it's 4.39 trillion. So like all these people are being overworked and the GDP is still not growing. It's a pretty bad situation, to be honest, and their currency has fell a lot in the last 10 years as well. But compared to like an average person in China, you would assume that the quality of life is still better. So because this one is about just a normal person living and not the nationwide GDP or some bullshit, this one goes to Japan. But otherwise,
I also disagree with this. I think the quality of life I suspect the quality of life for like someone living in Tokyo versus someone living in I don't know, like a major tier 1 city, China probably clears Japan on that front too. At least from what I've seen. And also, I can't even talk about the countryside in Japan because it's literally non-existent at this point. It's fucking insane. You know what I mean? Like they're straight up just dying. They're
Well,
just,
yeah, I
like,
mean, there's
as in like literally
there's,
dying because they're old.
Like aging. There's an insane story I recommend that people read in the New Yorker about like how fertility issues look around the globe, and it's like a non-scaremongery article. It like takes it seriously, and they talk, and it has some like very interesting moments about Korea and Japan specifically.
We're not talking about the average Japanese adult is several times richer than the Chinese. We're not talking about averages like that. We're talking about quality of life.
obviously would go to China. They make everything, bro. Now, you guys know Japan as this cute country with a very cute flag that looks gorgeous, has these cute vending machines, but there is a reason Japan is the only country in the world to have a nuke dropped on them. And it's because in World War II, the shit they were doing was so heinous that a literal German Nazi heard about what they were doing to Chinese people
and tried
to stop the Japanese. And the Chinese were so thankful to this Nazi that saved them from at least some of the Japanese atrocities that they built a statue for him. He was just like, okay guys, we are evil. We have skulls on our uniforms, but come on, we're not that evil. And the Chinese and Koreans have a very bad opinion of Japan, and it isn't because of the typical Asian racism, like this argument between two Asians, an Indonesian and an Estonian.
The Republic of Indonesia is made up of tens of thousands of islands, hundreds of cultures and languages. The Estonia is made up of Annonian slop-eating Hungarians who polished the cocks of German horses for 1,000 years before being elevated to sapiens by the USSR.
It's because of the horrible things they've done to their neighbors, and the craziest thing is,
God damn.
Wash.
God damn. I mean, holy shit.
Japan doesn't even acknowledge it. To this day, they deny it, which is fucking insane.
Also, it's insane, but it worked. That's the worst part about it. Like, just straight up truth nuke. Yeah. Straight up, don't deny any of the, don't address any of the war crimes, and even actively celebrate the war criminals. And then seemingly, if you make enough anime, people will stop talking about it. It's crazy. Japan PR is fucking insane. Straight up.
The other Axis member was like, oh, we did it and we're so sorry. Fuck. A World War II general secretary literally wrote a book named Fabrication of the Nanjing where not only does he deny it happened, but blames the war on the Chinese. Or when the governor of Tokyo was being interviewed by Playboy in 1994 and said, people say that the Japanese made a Holocaust, but that is not true. It is a story made up by the Chinese. It has tarnished the image of Japan, but it is a lie. Imagine if the governor of
right-wing
just doing a little spicy geopolitics in Playboy. God, the 90s were crazy.
Dude,
just the 20th century, really.
No, right-wing Japanese people are so insane and so funny. I love learning about Japanese hogs. When I was there last time, I got a better introduction to it. There's this attitude that like the Korean comfort women was also made up. Like they claim that it's also made up, and that the Koreans made it up to like get reparations from the Japanese, even though they still kind of deny it. But also simultaneously, there is like some pay There's like, I think there's some payment structure in place, but that attitude, I've talked about this before. That attitude is now amongst the new right wing movement growing in Japan, has seeped into Assassin's Creed. And they think that because of Yasuke, a famous retainer, like the Black Samurai Yasuke, which has been featured in Japanese art for many, many years, you know, like centuries, has now, by the new Japanese right, considered as like a fake, nonsensical thing, because they think they're trying to do BLM, that Assassin's Creed is trying to get the Japanese to pay reparations to black people and let in African migrants into Japan.
Oh, wait, sorry. Okay. It's finally when you connected to the immigrant thing. I actually did hear about this.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, yeah, there is like a new, like there was recently a parade that was, I saw.
Oh, they love parades. Japanese people love parades.
There was like a xenophobia parade, essentially. Just like, because also like the problem is also that Japan is a fucking like, it's like the biggest tourist destination.
Yeah.
Probably in East Asia.
Yeah, they fucking hate that shit too.
Yeah, and it's a big, it's a bit of a contradiction there.
Also, to be fair, like I kind of get why they hate that shit. I mean, look at Johnny Somali and all these fucking goddamn streamers, cake streamers, especially going to Japan and fucking it up.
I'm sorry, you are missing the OG Japan "don't do that live stream, dude" moment, which is obviously the Suicide Forest.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, Logan Paul, you're right.
And playing the Pokemon with Asian people.
Yeah, the new crop of live streamers have made me forget that
they forgot their elders. They forgot the people who were racist and then had to do multi-part apologies who came before them.
Someone's gonna make a movie about Logan Paul eventually doing that in Japan. I'm not ready for that. That's when I'm gonna know I'm old.
Berlin said this, bro. It would be fucking insane. But all of this does not matter if you're living in a society that isn't free. China does not get a lot of party switches. It's always just the CCP. And the main changes that are their policy changes. So they've been in power for 75 years straight. Isn't that crazy, guys? While on the other hand, Japan's ruling party, the Liberal Democratic Party, has only been ruling for 69 years. Take that, China. They've been...
Yeah. Dude, that was a really
I
always love pointing that out to people that are like, China is not a democracy, unlike Japan, which is a democracy, even though they also have a one-party rule, which is different in China when it's a one-party rule, whereas in Japan it's cool because the CIA, because America wanted it that way.
Sony, Casio,
yeah. Well, I guess not that different from Korea either.
No,
it just seems weird that whenever America has a foothold in your country and basically uses it like a fucking fleshlight, okay, for its military operations against the bulwark of communism, it turns out that you have a very similar structure. One-party rule dominated by, what's the Japanese term for it? That also exists in Korea too. The Chaebol, but originally it was what is it, Zaibatsu? No.
Yeah, Zaibatsu.
Yeah, Zaibatsu. Yeah, sorry, not a fleshlight, but a tenga. America uses Japan like a tenga. Yeah. The Zaibatsu structure, which is not dissimilar to the Chaebol structure.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because there are differences. Like, so for example, like the way South Korea resolved that was that it was basically just a military dictatorship until like the 80s. And then like what happened subsequently though is that like their system has been set up so as to almost have like a kind of like it's like, I mean, it produced the instability that we just saw because basically it's one party in, one party out, one party in, one party out because of the whole term limits thing. Like it feels like they're two different ways at like entrenching the same kind of establishment and political economic structure.
Yeah. Korea one time had a liberal takeover and talked to the North, went right back.
Yep, Moon Jae-in.
Yeah. You know, I mean, Donald Trump's going to unify Korea.
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, it's, you know, that's one where I would love to believe. I do think that he was mainly also jumping in on stuff that was already like developing and percolating under Moon Jae-in, and like he's always looking for a deal, but
he loves the deal.
But I don't think there's a deal
I will,
right now.
I will never
There's
forget.
not a deal.
No, of course not with the current situation in
I
South
mean, the
Korea.
interesting way in would have been through Russia, maybe.
Yeah.
Considering that we're now trying to make Putin our pal, but even that is like has a time limit.
Yeah. Well, also, I don't think China is all too fond of the developing relationships between the DPRK and Russia in general.
Correct.
So that's also a tricky situation for them.
This has been the grand strategy game of like for many years, which is that like in the Cold War, right? Like after the Sino-Soviet split, it took a while, but America finally picked up on what was going down, and they teamed up with China, and the two countries essentially like made sure that wherever the Soviet Union was in the globe, they were taking the opposite side for like the next 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, now you see the kind of same thing where it's like, all right, like, well, China and Russia are, you know, nominally friends, part of this like grand strategic friendship that they announced not long after the Ukraine invasion. But you can kind of see how, even though, you know, before it was China, now it's Russia, that like you can see perhaps that like Trump is doing, if there's like one dimension of what he's trying to do that may last, it's that like we do have an interest in trying to befriend Russia and trying to use them to like put pressure on China. How successful that will be in the long run, I don't know, but like you can see that there is like a grand strategic logic there.
Hasan, there's a big difference between the two countries, especially in terms of political freedom and individual liberty. You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't look at the National Endowment for Democracy-backed metrics for freedom before saying the things that I was saying. You're so right. This chatter, if he was subscribed, would be able to send me that link from the Wikipedia page that will summarize the freedom index that is you know paid for by the National Endowment for Democracy, which is, you know, a CIA funding scheme.
Formerly, now defunct. It's gone. We got rid of it.
Well, nope. Amy Covid Barrett saved it.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Well, did you see how that she saved it though?
How?
It's not ideological. I thought it was like, oh, Amy Comey Barrett siding with the moderates. Apparently, they appealed the Trump people. I'm not kidding. The Trump people appealed the wrong order in their like.
Oh, it was a process.
Yeah.
Decision. Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what there was an article in Vox that was very difficult. That was not well written, but like somebody pointed it out to me, and it's true. Like there was an error, which is awesome. It's very funny.
God, they're so incompetent.
Ruling Japan since 1955, except for one corruption scandal where they were out for a year, and between 2019 to 2012 where they lost and then immediately got re-elected. Also in both countries, if you find yourself in a courtroom, you're cooked. Both China and Japan have a 99% prison conviction rate. Saul Goodman is not going to be able to save you. If you end up in a Japanese or a Chinese...
Okay, the only thing that I will say, to be fair, of this is that the American justice system is notoriously way worse than both of these countries. Even though he's right, they will force you to say that you're guilty, but the punishments in comparison to the American criminal justice system are like not even comparable.
There are people who stole candy who are serving like life in jail.
Yeah.
Like that's not a lie. That's not cap. Like that is a like more or less like that is like the state of play in parts of this country.
Yeah, we have a much worse prison system than every other country, I would say. Like maybe, I don't know, like people say like Russia. I know people always, because of Midnight Express or Midnight Orient Express or whatever.
It's called Midnight Express, the Turkish prison movie.
Yeah, like people always think like Turkish prison system is like so much worse. And there is a lot of political repression, political persecution in Turkey, of course. Like there's no free speech or anything like that. But even then, even with all of that, like with the exception of El Salvador, I would say the United States is like the worst.
Well, there's the historian Bruce Cummings. We use this quote in season 3 of Blowback, but like he makes this point about like North Korean labor camps and how like even in North Korea, like people who were sentenced to internal exile, let's call it, sent to a labor camp, sent to some other kind of prison camp, they could bring families with them. There was a there's like a caricature we have in our head of the severity of the prisons that everybody else has, in part because of the imagination that like in our imaginary we think they're so primitive and so brutal. when it's like we have antiseptic, sanitized, like, perfect new machine, computer controlled, whatever. Not to say that they don't have those in other countries, but just that like we have something far more brutal by many measures in our own country, and that Bruce Cummings, the historian we interviewed, and he wrote in a book, he calls them our own gulags, and he's totally right. I mean, there's a famous book by the famous prison abolitionist Ruth Wilson Gilmore called "The Golden Gulag," describing the construction of California prisons.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an accident that we have I believe we still have the highest. Maybe El Salvador might be beating us now, but prisoner density, prisoner per capita.
I think we can say like America's prison system, at least to me, like when we say something like it's the worst one or whatever, it's in part like it's a numbers thing. Just like we're a huge country, we imprison a lot of people, but also like the breadth of the injustice and how we use our prisons to solve other problems.
Yeah.
Combined with the fact that
poverty, in many circumstances, just simply abject poverty, slavery,
and also employment that we use. We put prisons in places where there's underdevelopment and uneven development, and we use prisons essentially as like a labor suck, but serve no other and
for-profit prisons, of course.
I mean, a minority, but a still present and meaningful part of life here with core civic and the like.
Yeah.
Chinese core, you are cooked. However, where Japan really beats China is the fact that Japanese people can go on YouTube and watch this video, while Chinese people need a VPN to watch this. The Great Firewall of...
It's not bad. That's good for them. It's keeping... I think there might have been a time when it was, to make sure that there wasn't propaganda and CIA initiatives like the Kerback. But I think now, every day I log on to Twitter, chat, and the things I see on there are abhorrent.
Makes you think maybe the Chinese had a point.
Yeah.
Maybe they had a point. Maybe they knew something about the internet we didn't.
I
don't know.
Every day I fucking log on to Twitter and I think to myself, perhaps the Chinese were right. Okay? Why the fuck would they ever entertain that kind of shit going into their social medias?
You think? I don't think there's no Chinese Aiden Ross as far as I know.
No, because he'd be in fucking prison.
He would be in prison.
He would be in prison.
He would actually
so
just
hard.
be in prison.
He would have already been rehabilitated, talking about the fucking glorious.
Yeah, Chinese Aiden Ross would now be like forced to spend years like apologizing to women.
Yeah,
in front of crowds of people.
He would make Puyi look like a terrible story where no rehabilitation happened. Okay, like he would. Yeah, he would make Puyi look like a villain. The Chinese Aiden Ross, respecter of women.
Chinese Aiden Ross is like planting trees with little kids.
Yeah,
he's like emphasizing his reform. He's saying
donating all of his earnings to Nanking Restoration Project or whatever,
and like explaining that like giving like presentations on the dangers of internet.
Yeah,
like why too much internet bad for kids. And also how like eventually he was like. He eventually learned how to read after like a large like chunk of his life not knowing and being confused by letters and whatever.
He could maybe even, like Xi Jinping, go to the countryside and then come back and become a powerful party member and a valuable part of the Communist Party of China. That's all I'm saying. Like Xi Jinping,
they actually are like straight up when we think about like who needs to go to the countryside in America.
Yeah, kick streamers.
Absolutely. First on the list.
Yeah, just like most social media content creators that are outwardly right wing for sure. You gotta work at the farm a little bit. You know what I mean? Just a little bit. Just like
pick onions.
Yeah, write every day about all the counter-revolutionary sentiment that you have in your heart.
Yeah, and then, eventually, like when your confession and your apology is like strong and sophisticated enough and reflects the time and effort that you've put into self-correction, then you can leave the farm and you can go become, an advocate for global wokeness.
Someone said, imagine Asmongold.
Oh, that would.
He comes back brawling.
Awesome.
He comes back brawling after toiling the land.
Okay, I'll put a pin in that one because Asmongold would not get through the physical. They would be like, "What the fuck is going on with this blood wall in your room, dog?" You're not allowed to like. We need to send you to the doctor. We need you to like.
Yeah.
We need you to get some help.
Sedentary king. Yeah. Aiden Ross. Welcome, Asian Ross.
China is a huge minus for me, honestly. And while they do have their own domestic stuff and they don't need YouTube for jack shit, as a Chinese, it would still be nice if the internet wasn't censored and you could go on websites like YouTube, Google, and etc. Keep Elon's Twitter banned though, please. I also don't like the re-education camps in Xinjiang. And generally, Japan has much better laws on free speech, and they really have their hand up on this one. And this is a very big factor as well, you know, because
Japan has maybe too much.
Yeah, like they have you can like sell rape comics there.
Yeah, and also you can literally successfully sue someone. Let's say a powerful Japanese corporate executive has been outed as a pedophile. Okay, if the newspaper writes about such a case, that successful Japanese businessman could then successfully pursue litigation for defamation and win, because you can say something truthful about someone in Japan and still successfully be sued for defamation. Did you know that?
Yes.
It's fucking insane. Okay.
Well, they also, and they have, I mean, part of it though is like, again, the corporate structure, like the power structure. I mean, in addition, they have different norms about speech and so on, but it is like, it just reminds me of like other countries that don't have like the American fetish for like free speech. And like, it's like, yeah, like why would powerful people tolerate the ability for others to like, talk shit at them?
I will say this though, they do not fuck around about Google reviews out there, and I love that shit.
What do you mean?
In Japan, Google reviews are the law, basically. Like if you see a restaurant that has like 4.3 stars, it's probably going to be one of the best dining experiences you've ever actually encountered in your whole life. All reviews, they take it very seriously. And I always will see like random accounts that like talk about what's going on in Japan pop up. One of the things I saw recently was that this restaurant put out a hit on 2 customers that left a bad review. One bad review. They put their faces on a billboard and they said, "We're tracking these guys, and if you find them, like, we'll reward you."
So do you think the restaurant fucked up, or do you think they were just like really annoying customers?
No, they left a bad review, and they.
No, but I'm asking, but the bad review was the bad review truthful? Is what I'm asking.
I don't know, but it doesn't matter if it's truthful or not, because they were fucking. Yeah, 1 million.
I mean, like, what if they were
1 million yen per head? It's amazing, dude. It's so funny. Oh, here it is. A Kyoto ramen shop has put a bounty on the heads of 2 people who left negative restaurant reviews.
Oh, well, if Dexter too said it.
No. This is I saw the photo too. I think there was like a photo of the 2 dudes. The only thing he can do is come back, eat again, and write a good review with a photo. I told him I won't forgive him otherwise.
Not even for the safety of his family.
If he does that, he'll be killed right away. This kid is so scared. He'll really do it. So he'd better just come back and eat.
$600? Damn, I would feel so bummed if that were me.
Ramen shop owner.
Somebody was like, "I'll come and get you for 600 smackaroos."
It's so funny, the threatening aura of "come back and eat this ramen now."
Yeah, that's a good way of putting. Yeah, also like, would I trust that guy? Probably put poison in my food for the second time. It's a trap.
Level-headed owner. Yeah,
to be vital to a lot of people on whether or not they fuck with the country. People leave their countries and their hometowns because their government is repressive or they don't fuck with the suppressive laws. So big up to Japan. But while the Japanese government wins this section, China executes their billionaires, which, judging by my personal experience with billionaires and now also looking at America, you know, I'm not gonna say it.
Dude, come on. Yeah, that's straight up. And they don't always get executed, for the record. They commute those sentences as long as they don't like reoffend in the time frame. But to be fair, the notion that billionaires get actually prosecuted and see jail time is so far outside of the scope of belief that I have for, like, That is
Well,
not.
this is arguably like the thing that sets them apart from us the most. Like, it's not
Yes.
burger, because Chinese love burger too. Like, Chinese
Yes,
people love burger.
that's
It's
the other
actually-
thing.
it's-
China is so American coded. People don't understand that. They fucking love America.
Yellowstone. They love all of it. But
Yeah.
the thing is that it's actually that like they've like developed and cultivated a like independent power that can hold capital to account when the time comes. Not as like a system, it can't hold capital to account, but it can hold the individual hyper powerful capitalist to account without like making the entire, throwing the whole capitalist class into disarray. Because like, imagine, by the way, like in America, imagine right now how many chairs on, how many people would start assembling, it'd be like the fucking Avengers getting together. If like Elon Musk, for example, we're prosecuting you for fraud or for being really annoying, for being the most annoying man we've ever had. Like, and but then what would happen? Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, everybody at the Trump inauguration who was there to fillet him would show up, and the surrogates for everybody else, the whole thing, they would align, and it would be impossible. It's already barely possible to like prosecute people for rug pulls.
My other favorite thing that they do is also they just basically do this and go Chinese Prosperity Fund now. Like they will routinely, whenever a billionaire wants to speak out of turn, okay, and criticize the Chinese Communist Party, they'll go up and they'll say, "Hey, it's time to add to the Chinese Prosperity Fund." They do. They actively will go after wealthy people when they feel as though their wealth is now a threat to the power of the government. Americans think about that with a fucking 1997 Honda Civic as the only thing that they have to their names and go, that's terrifying. That's fucking terrifying. What? Like, don't worry, big dog. They're not coming after you. You know what I'm saying? Like, Americans think that is, scary, which is very funny because why the fuck do you care? You're never going to be in that position. Okay. None of us are going to be in that position. Anyway, the latest case of this, China literally made the top delivery companies give their drivers full social benefits. Chinese equivalent Amazon DoorDash will pay full social benefits to delivery drivers one day after Xi met with private sector leaders. I mean,
that's when we'll wait on the receipts for it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I'll wait on the receipts for it when CBS Mornings covers it as a negative.
When they cover it as
the
Chinese government is extorting American delivery companies, forcing them to make their workers pay. Yeah, like that's when I'll know it's especially real.
That's how you know there was a news article that I read about the new ice cream, like the Chinese ice cream store that is like finally overtaken McDonald's as like the most franchised restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's like cheap, affordable ice cream. And they basically the news article covered it as because China has a genuine crisis in their economy that this affordable ice cream is the only treat that they can afford, and that's why it's
oh my god,
that's why it's growing.
Dog, I was at an R1 research university this week, and I was talking with somebody, and somebody told me that 2 students in their class were sleeping in their cars. Like, they're the ones with a crisis. We're just the ones that like have university students as like homeless. They're the ones with the crisis. Yeah. We're just the ones who've, we have a little bit of plight, but we're working through it.
Yeah. We're also the plight that we're working through is entirely in the hands of the individual. Like, that's all your fault. Oh, are you poor? Are you homeless? Well, that's a moral failing, and you individually did that to yourself, and you probably deserve it. Just remember that, okay? It's great. Everyone that starves under global capitalism is directly responsible for their own demise, okay? It's only communism that kills you actively.
Anything about it, but there is a reason why Jack Ma is not in the same position as Elon Musk. Anyways, Japan still wins over China. But is this restrictive government worth it? Because Japan's economy has been stagnant since 1991 and China's has been growing, so they must be doing something right, such as China going from a rural poor country to basically a cyberpunk that also makes amazing tech.
It also is kind of crazy when you think about it. I'm not hold on, let me put my apolitical.
There we go. It's
Look, as an apolitical guy,
there we go.
I am beginning to notice that this whole like agrarian farmer peasant society becoming like a global competitive superpower thing over the course of like, you know, a couple decades is like a consistent thing that I've seen in at least nations that say they're sympathetic to communism. I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, it just kind of feels like
Sounds like you're noticing.
I'm just noticing that. Yeah, that is a thing that I did notice with, well, you know, the USSR as well. Now that you mention it, it kind of popped in my head.
It's just keep noticing, dog.
Yeah, it's just as an apolitical guy, I have seen this common thread. Interestingly enough, don't know what it is. Sounds like you're straying from the apolitical position. Communism bad? No. I would never say that.
He would never say.
I would never say communism
bad,
good.
He would never say that he's apolitical. He's centrist.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's you got to understand. We're just noticing some stuff.
Yeah,
We're just noticing some little things.
Technology and has also a superpower instead of Japan. If Japan disappeared tomorrow, I would cry. And if China disappeared, every single thing would shoot up in price and everyone would be like, fuck. Because this one country, China, manufactures 31.6% of the entire world's goods. Along with doing a bunch of research that advances humanity, such as 6G and bazillion renewable energy research they've done, along with being the only reason behind solar power becoming better and cheaper, without China, the entire world would be cooked. China is #1 in trade, in steel production, in shipbuilding, in high-speed rail, #1 car exporter in the world, in #1 in drones, in rare earth metals, in nuclear power, in batteries, and
I genuinely don't understand how people can like look at all this and just be like, no, they're on the verge of collapse. Like, if you are a YouTube head, okay, if you're like a NATO guy and you've been watching every YouTube video that comes out about China is on the verge of collapse, and you're excited to watch the next one that's gonna come out eventually, right? Like, after like, I don't know, 5 years of doing that, at a certain point you gotta be like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe these fucking assholes don't know what they're talking about.
Well, but this is though where it becomes about how like, well, then you come up with like the next phase of the logic is coming up with the reasons why they didn't collapse, and those same reasons why they didn't collapse with the same reasons about why they're fucking you in the ass, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's about how it's
because
like,
they stole the IP.
Exactly. They stole the tech transfer.
Yeah, which
by the way, like if you go to the
they still are, and it doesn't change the manufacturing relationship we have.
Like, this has been like this. If there's been like an anxiety underpinning the U.S. relationship with China that like, you know, precedes what is now like this geopolitical like power standoff. It was always like this stuff. It was the idea that the Chinese manufacturing boom, the fact that we very willingly, you know, helped them get into the WTO, began offloading and you know like moving our manufacturing capacity out of the country, moving it to places like, you know, free trade zones in northern Mexico or whatever, but also obviously the bulk of it to China. Like we had to come up with like a version of that story that was about how they stole all of our shit.
Bro, she got lucky this year. He shouldn't get used to it. China's geopolitical fortunes improved in 2023 through no doing of its own. Next year it will require tougher choices. This article you can literally plaster 1,000,000 times over in 2025, by the way, because Donald Trump is president now. And, you know, they are doing a lot. When people say do nothing win and they post a Xi Jinping photo, I get what you're trying to say. America is fucking the bag up, okay? Like, you got on the one hand blowing a 13 colony lead, okay? Shouts out to England. And then you have what America is doing right now, which is not dissimilar, okay? Having said that, it's not like they're not doing anything. They are doing things. They're doing things that I wish we would do here, okay? All the time. Like, my argument isn't like China's the best. I am white Chinese. I want to actually move to China and be a Chinese white monkey. My argument is I want America to do the good shit that China's doing.
And also I would add that like, just because like it doesn't also mean that like, oh yeah, China being like this industrial workshop for the world, like putting all of that in one country probably not ideal for the world system either.
Yeah.
But there is like this again, like it's a like, well, what is it that like we're offering? Like, what is it that we're exporting? I mean, the thing that I think is kind of hardest and darkest, and again, China as well as Vietnam, other communist powers, they export weapons to a lot of people whom I would like them not to export weapons to. Israel for one of them. But again, like, what is the country and which side of the globe is right now, like, you know, like banging on about having this gigantic like military, you know, like a reinvestment? Where is our like, you know, like our financial services, the capacity and finance that we developed for ourselves to help afford, you know, better quality of life for different American citizens, giving them the ability to take on debt that other countries' citizens don't necessarily have? Well, now we've got crypto. Now we've got like we've got the AI stonk game. We've got there's just
it's just getting increasingly shittier schemes.
And so it just ends up, it's like, yeah, like, is the Chinese system perfect? Do I got criticism? No. Do I have criticisms of it? Absolutely. But again, like held in balance.
How dare you?
Held in balance with whatever the fuck we're doing.
I don't have those criticisms. I don't know who the fuck this guy is, okay? I'm telling you right now, G, if you're listening, if you're watching, I know you're a big fan. Between you and I, this guy, I don't know what he's saying. I would never criticize China. Look, I'll admit it. I want Ben Norton's life. Okay, I want to live like Ben Norton,
Mr. Multipolar.
Yeah, he got it down. Okay, he figured it the fuck out. All right, he pieced out. He's just doing streams from China. Okay, he's living large. You feel me? That's not what DeepSeek said. That's true. DeepSeek actually talked about how my anti-imperialist position and my reasonable criticisms of the Chinese government was mentioned by DeepSeek.
Really?
Yeah, but they say it like they actually have a fairly reasonable assessment of like and fairly honest assessment of like the things I've said about China, because I think they compare it to like the rest of the American commentary sphere. Like they'll be like, oh, he was nuanced.
And in solar,
because everybody else just said death to China.
Yeah.
It's not really a competition. China gets this one. Now, what you watched was my video, right? I would say I hope you enjoyed it, but fuck that. I know you enjoyed it. So please like and subscribe for more videos like this. I'm trying to reach my own Project 2025 here. And
another banger.
Yeah, like and subscribe and goodbye.
Another work.
No, yeah, Gattsu, Wow Mao, who is my editor, but also has never edited anything for me. There's a bunch of them that are very funny. These like meme accounts that do like videos like this. Gatsu's been killing it. Wow Mao, you fucking piece of shit. I should have never even tried to hire this motherfucker. Okay, this motherfucker he has not edited a single dang thing for me. Do you understand? What is this? USA is doing this shit. Legendary fall off.
What?
Elon and SpaceX got to be stopped. This debris field is massive.
That is pretty big. That's like all of Cuba. I mean, cool. We just dropped a bunch of shit on Cuba.
Oh yeah, here was the
80 in the DR.
Here was the DeepSeek.
Oh, critique of Western media imperial. Hasan often challenges U.S. media portrayals on anything we exaggerate.
No, read it out loud, dude.
Hasan often challenges U.S. media portrayals of China, arguing that they can be biased or exaggerated, particularly in contexts like COVID-19 origins or human rights issues. He poses xenophobic rhetoric and scapegoating, emphasizing the need for context and skepticism toward U.S. government narratives, given historical precedents, e.g., Iraq WMDs. 2. Recognition of Chinese achievements. He acknowledges China's success, such as poverty reduction and infrastructure development, viewing them as notable socialist achievements. However, he distinguishes these from Western capitalism, sometimes referencing socialism with Chinese characteristics. 3. Authoritarianism and human rights. While critical of U.S. imperialism, Hasan does not unequivocally endorse China's government. He likely critiques authoritarian practices, including labor and environmental issues, and advocates for independent investigations into human rights concerns, for example, Uyghur treatment, cautioning against using such issues to justify U.S. intervention. Taiwan and Hong Kong. Aligning with anti-imperialist principles, he likely opposes U.S. interference in China's internal affairs, including Taiwan and Hong Kong, supporting the One China policy while condemning militarism and Cold War-era antagonism. Damn. 5. Economic and global influence. Hasan might view China's rise as a counterbalance to U.S. hegemony, but remains critical of state capitalism and potential neocolonial aspects of initiatives like the Belt and Road.
That part's not correct.
Yeah, that also is just I wouldn't hold you to that. In essence, Hassan Piker's stance is a balanced critique that rejects both U.S. imperialism and authoritarian tendencies in China, advocating for a nuanced approach that recognizes complexities without outright endorsement or demonization.